I was deliberating posting about this on the off chance that my daughter uses Reddit, but I'm at a loss for what to do, and I really need some perspective as a father. Over 5 years ago, when my daughter was 16 years old, going on 17, she got into a secret relationship with an older man who was 24 that she met online. At the time, she would act differently. For example, whenever her mother or I would walk past her on the couch, she would instinctively lean her phone towards herself, obviously trying to cover her screen. Or if she was on her phone at the table, she'd flip her phone over facing down if we got close to her. Her mom thought it was just a normal teenager habit to want privacy, but I had a feeling it was more than just that. A month after that behavior began, I would sometimes hear her talking on the phone at night to a male voice, and whenever I asked her about it, she told me it was a guy friend from school. She used the name of a boy from school that I had seen before at school events, so I trusted her. That same month, my wife overheard her talking on the phone in the bathroom with a guy while the shower was on and confronted her about it. My daughter got very defensive, telling her to mind her business and that nothing weird was going on. She was just talking to her friend and wasn't doing anything inappropriate. I was out while this was happening, so I didn't hear about any of this until it was night and we were in bed. My wife told me about the incident and that she thought the voice she heard wasn't her friend from school since they sounded nothing alike. I did not know how else to deal with the situation, so I left it alone. Another month later, there were about 3 to 5 nights where we could hear her arguing with the same male voice she talks to, 2 of the nights ending with her crying. My wife and I were trying to get her to talk and to tell us what happened and why she was upset. The only thing she would say was that it was just friendship drama repeatedly. I knew that this was a lie. For the past 3 months, she had been going out much less to hang out with friends than usual. Whenever we asked her about her day at school, she would just say, "It was fine," without telling us anything about her friends, which again was unusual. I logged into my phone service provider account the afternoon after her last late-night phone call that ended in tears and checked her call history. The number she had been calling very frequently, more than I expected, had an area code that was not listed in our state at all. I knew it wasn't her friend from school. At this point, I am freaking out over who this imaginary number could be. I took off early from work so I could meet with my daughter right after she got home from school. I'll spare some details here because a lot happened and it is a painful memory. But after she got home from school, I had her sit down in the dining room. I explained to her that I had checked her phone logs and that I knew she was not talking to her guy friend or any other friends. She was 95% of the time for the past 3 months only talking to this mysterious number. She was panicking and making up excuses. He got a new phone, and I explained to her how area codes work. Her excuses were so bad, I ended up calling her an idiot out of anger. I demanded to see her phone. She yelled no at me, and I raised my voice very high, telling her again to raise my phone. That was the only time in my life I had ever yelled at her, to that extremity at least. She unlocked it and pushed it towards me onto the other side of the table. I found her texts between her and this number. I wish I could erase from my mind what I had seen. Explicit photos, sexting, flirting, conversations about how she's worried about her parents finding out about their relationship, about how she's worried that their age gap and her being under 18 would get him into trouble, and arguments, half of them being about their ages and keeping it a secret from us. I was silent for about 10 minutes while she was on the other side of the table crying. I called his number. He picked up, said, "Hello, daughter's name?" And I replied, "Yes, hi, his name, this is her father. If you talk to my daughter ever again, I will be filing charges. Stay away from her and never speak to any of us." We got his full name, his parents' Facebook, and we knew that him and my daughter met through Twitter. We didn't end up pressing charges because I was worried she would also get charged with distributing child porn for sending him nudes. So the only thing we could do was ground her for the rest of the school year by taking away her phone and her computer. We also took her to a therapist, but it didn't quite work out. I didn't say a single word to my daughter for several weeks. I could barely look at her in the eye. honestly. I'd still make her dinner, or if needed, pick her up from school, but otherwise, I didn't interact with her. It took the whole year for us to be on good terms again. I do love my daughter, no matter what, but I still feel that same feeling of betrayal that I felt on the day I discovered her talking to that man. My whole life, I had raised her to be an honest person. I told her how important it is to have honesty as a value. She disregarded that and did something she knew she should have absolutely not been doing, and she lied in our faces many times. Not only did she lie so many times, she planned out some of her lies and excuses with the guy she was seeing. She was so deliberate and thorough, and kept lying on the spot even when she knew there was no salvaging her situation. It disturbs me that she went to such lengths, especially since she has never lied to me like this before, not even close to this level. I asked her to never lie to me like that again a couple of times throughout the years, and she promised me she wouldn't. I want to trust her all the way, but I just can't. I do think she is a decent person who overall has good intentions, but ever since the incident, I haven't been able to look at her the same as I did before. Is there any way I can move forward from this so I can have a good relationship with my daughter without any hang-ups? Or will this forever be an imprint on the both of us? Update. I read through a lot of the responses and I need to make myself clear. I do not blame her for what happened, nor is my anger directed at her more than the man who preyed upon her. He's a piece of shoot, and I don't want him to see the light of day. Whether she got groomed or not, the fact remains that she did lie to us repeatedly, and that is the part I was upset about. And yes, not doing anything about this sooner than we did is another part of why I have difficulty moving on. I hardly bring up the incident to my daughter because I know it's an upsetting topic for the both of us. After reading these responses, I did reflect more on my own teenage years and how I got into trouble myself even if I knew better. I can forgive her, and despite what happened, I will always be a father to her. I have apologized to her in the past for reacting very harshly at the time. I can confidently say that I will never abandon her like that ever again. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. She is human. We make mistakes. You may not remember how your teenage brain worked when you were young, but sometimes logical and responsible children/teens do out of character and stupid stuff. This is an extreme example of that. It happens. I have done out of character things, and I have seen many other kids do this. Not to this extent. It seems that you need therapy, my man. It has been 5 years. No one can tell you how to forgive her for being groomed by a predator, because your reaction to what happened to your daughter is very strange. Only someone with an education and experience in psychology can really help you process your emotions. No one on here is going to agree with how you feel or understand it. Even I don't. This is one of those situations beyond Reddit's pay grade. Comment 2. We all do impulsive things as teenagers, and we also do impulsive, dumb things when we think we are in love. You need to realize that your daughter was being manipulated by this man, and when someone is in a toxic relationship like that, they are not themselves no matter what age it happens. Part of how toxic people maintain their control is by isolating the victim, and one way that is done is by having the victim alienate herself from her loved ones. You should be blaming him, not her. The way you handled this is understandable, but also increased the hurt for both you and your daughter. She is your daughter. She is a part of you. Try to focus on that instead of ruminating on the pain this random, horrible man brought into your lives. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, it's been a wild couple of weeks since my last post, and I've got to say, things have taken some unexpected turns. I was hesitant to share more, but I need to get this off my chest. So, remember how I told you about my daughter's secret relationship with an older guy when she was 16? Well, she's 21 now, and I thought we were past all that drama. But life has a funny way of bringing things full circle. 2 weeks ago, my daughter came home from college for spring break. She's been doing great, studying hard, and staying out of trouble, or so I thought. One evening, while we were having dinner, she got a text that made her face go pale. I noticed, but didn't say anything at the time. Later that night, I heard her arguing with someone on the phone in her room. It was déjà vu. and my heart sank. The next day, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I decided to talk to her about it. I found her in the living room, her eyes red from crying. I sat down next to her, and after a long silence, she finally opened up. Turns out, the guy from 5 years ago had reached out to her again. He said he was sorry that he had changed, and he wanted to make things right. My daughter, being the forgiving soul she is, had been talking to him behind our backs. She told me they hadn't met up, but she was considering it. She was torn, knowing how much pain it had caused before. I was furious, not just at him, but at the situation. I felt betrayed all over again. But then I remembered the advice from some of you, and I took a deep breath. I realized that getting angry wouldn't solve anything. We needed to find a way through this together. After a long talk, we came to a compromise. She agreed to cut off all contact with him, but only if I promised to trust her judgment more and not invade her privacy. She explained that she felt suffocated by my overprotectiveness since the incident, and it was pushing her away. That hit me hard. I had been so focused on keeping her safe that I didn't see how it was affecting our relationship. I agreed to her terms, and we shook on it. It was a tough pill to swallow, but if it meant keeping her safe and rebuilding our trust, it was worth it. But that's not the jaw-dropping part. A few days later, my wife and I got a message from the guy's mother. She had found out about her son contacting our daughter again and was horrified. She apologized profusely and assured us that she would handle it. It turns out he had a history of this behavior, and his family was trying to get him help. This revelation brought back a flood of emotions. I felt vindicated, knowing that it wasn't just my daughter caught up in this mess, but also angry that this guy was still out there, potentially harming other girls. My wife and I had a long discussion about whether we should take further action, but in the end, we decided to let his family deal with it. We had to focus on our daughter and our family. Since then, things have been better between my daughter and me. We've been talking more openly, and I've been working on giving her the space she needs. It's not easy, but I'm trying. Just yesterday, she told me about a new project she's working on for her major, and I could see the passion in her eyes. It reminded me of the little girl who used to get so excited about her science fair projects. It was a moment of pure joy, and I realized that despite everything, she's still my little girl. My husband's family tried to sneak into our lives after his death, but I stood firm for his wishes and our twins. They won't stop at anything. My 28-year-old female, husband John, 29-year-old male, died recently. It was shocking and really sudden. He was at work and suffered a brain aneurysm. We took him to the hospital, but it was too late. John and I have 2 twin boys who are 4 years old. I am aware life is going to get significantly harder now, but I very much want to raise our boys the way John and I had planned. One part of said plan was that John never, ever wanted our sons to have anything to do with his side of the family. John's dad cheated on his mom when he was 12 years old and left her for the mistress. The divorce was nothing short of mental torture for the poor woman who had been betrayed, blindsided, and then abandoned by her partner. She slipped into a depression, and instead of showing any compassion, his dad used her mental health to file for primary custody, which he later got. His mom was an orphan, and his dad's side of the family left her, so she was without any emotional, financial, or physical support. John fought all the way to be with his mom, but he was only a kid. He was devastated when a few months after the divorce and custody, she ended her life. John's relationship with his father completely broke down. He ran away and after much fighting was sent to live with his aunt. But he left after turning 18 and since then has been very low contact with his aunt and no contact with the rest of his family. His dad has reached out over the years, especially after John and I married and welcomed our boys. John has refused every single one of them, barred them from our house, called the cops, threatened them with harassment charges and restraining orders. He made it very clear to them and me that our boys would never have anything to do with them. I've always respected his wishes. When John was in the hospital, his dad and grandparents tried to visit, but even in his delirious state, John got angry upon seeing them and tried to get up and leave. This made me ban them from the hospital. I didn't tell them about John's passing either. I planned the funeral and paid for it. It was nothing fancy, but the service was beautiful and heartfelt. When his dad found out, he came to our house, shouting at me for not letting him see his son one last time. He was crying and screaming. I told him John made it clear that he didn't want him anywhere near, that it would have been disrespectful to ignore John's wishes. After more yelling and crying, John's aunt and uncle came to take his dad home. Before leaving, his aunt asked to meet my sons. But I refused again, telling her John didn't want them in his kids' lives. She called me heartless and cruel, that I had no right to deprive them of their grandkids, and that my sons would hate me for it. My sister, who was inside watching everything later, told me I was a jerk for depriving my children of their grandfather's love. She also asked me to consider my kids' future. I'm a single mother now, and John and I were living an average middle-class life, whereas his father's side of the family are quite rich. His dad had previously offered to pay for John's college, his house, our wedding, or even set up a fund for our boys. But John had refused everything. He had made it clear in every way that he wanted nothing from his family. It was fine while John was alive. Between him and me, we could have supported our boys. But alone now, I'm nervous. How do I proceed slacked going forward? Thank you so much for all the comments. You all did me a great favor. I was getting exhausted and scared as the days passed, but I've started working again, and it's been a good distraction. My parents have been so supportive through it all. My mom has moved in to help babysit the boys while I go to work. Today, John's aunt called me again. She was crying and apologized for calling me cruel and heartless. She said she had raised John and was heartbroken to not be allowed to see him once. I said it's okay and explained I was just following John's wishes. She said his dad was devastated, but has accepted that John was still mad at him. He has agreed to take a step back and sees that he cannot be expected to see his grandsons immediately and that it can take time, but that he wants a few pictures at the very least. I reminded her that I hadn't consented to letting them in even at a later date, and I wouldn't send any pictures. That got her mad and she snapped, "How dare you," at me, but calmed down soon and just said she'll call again later. She cut the call before I could say more. So that's where we are at now. About John's mom, her name was Anna. From what John told me, she was the sweetest woman ever, and that she deeply loved his dad. One thing he always said was he remembers how quickly his mother forgave his dad for cheating and still wanted to work on the marriage. She had begged and cried when he told her he was leaving and that he wanted her gone by the time he came back. She had once even hit John after he told her that he hated his dad. John always cried remembering this moment, and he always told me, if he ever treated me like that, I should give him no second chance, that he wants me to be stronger than his mom. This one memory is what I keep replaying in my head. I have to be stronger, and you all have given me a lot of confidence. Thank you so much. I will update if something else happens. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Given what happened since his death, I truly believe they would try to take the boys. Do exactly what he did to your husband's mother. If you have any other support from friends or family on your side, please lean on them. If you let them in, you're asking for a world of hurt. Kids need a safe place. They don't need a lot of material things. It sounds like there was a lot of physiological trauma your husband experienced. I wouldn't want that for my kids. Comment 2. Put your children first. Do you really want someone so unfathomably cruel to either hurt them or influence them? No, you don't know the inside track to his parents' marriage. But you knew and trusted your husband, and you've seen his father's character, bad enough to threaten legal action and cruel and disrespectful to you. He's not shown any remorse or kindness, only outrage for what he feels he deserves. Stay strong. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, I just wanted to say a huge thanks for all the support and advice you gave me last time. It's been a rough month, but your words have really helped me stay strong for my boys. So, a lot has happened since my last post. Remember how John's aunt called me, asking for pictures of the boys? Well, things escalated from there. She must have shared my number with John's dad because he started calling me nonstop. At first, I ignored the calls, but then he started leaving voicemails, each one more desperate than the last. He was begging to be a part of his grandson's lives, saying he had changed and that he was sorry for everything. I was torn. John had been so clear about his wishes, and I wanted to honor them. But then, I started thinking about the future. I'm working again, but it's tough making ends meet. The thought of John's wealthy family being able to provide for the boys was tempting, I won't lie. But then, something happened that made my blood boil. John's dad showed up at the boys' daycare. He tried to pick them up, pretending to be a doting grandfather. Thankfully, the staff knew not to release the boys to anyone but me or my mom. When I got there, he was causing a scene, demanding to see his blood. I was furious. I had to pull myself together in front of the boys, but inside I was shaking with anger. I confronted him right there in the parking lot. I reminded him of John's wishes and how he had no right to just show up and try to take my kids. He had the nerve to tell me that I was being selfish, that I was denying the boys a better life out of spite. I couldn't believe it. After everything John went through because of him, he still didn't get it. I got a lawyer involved after that. I wanted to make sure he couldn't pull a stunt like that again. The lawyer was great, really understanding of the whole situation. She helped me get a restraining order against John's dad. It was a relief, but also kind of sad. I never wanted things to get to this point. In the midst of all this, I've been trying to keep things normal for the boys. They ask about their dad a lot, and it breaks my heart every time. I've been reading them the books John used to read to them, trying to keep his memory alive. My mom has been amazing too. She's been my rock through all of this. But the drama didn't stop with the restraining order. John's aunt tried to reach out again, this time through a letter. She wrote about how John had lived with her after the divorce and how she had tried to be a mother to him. She talked about the good times they had, how they would bake cookies and watch movies together. It was a side of John's childhood I hadn't heard much about. It made me wonder if maybe John had some happy memories with his aunt, despite everything. The letter ended with her pleading for a chance to explain herself, to tell her side of the story. I didn't know what to do. Part of me felt for her, but another part of me was scared of opening that door. What if it was just another way for John's dad to get to the boys? Then, just when I thought things couldn't get any more complicated, I found out that John's dad had been talking to my sister behind my back. He had been filling her head with lies, saying that I was unstable and that he was worried about the boys' well-being. He even suggested that he might try to seek custody. My own sister started questioning me, asking if maybe I was being too harsh, if I was really thinking about what's best for the boys. I couldn't believe it. After everything, my sister was taking his side. It felt like such a betrayal. I had to sit her down and remind her of everything John went through, how his dad had turned his back on his own wife, how he had fought to keep John away from his mother. I told her that I was doing what John wanted, what was best for our boys. It's been a tough month, to say the least. I'm trying to stay strong, to be the mom John and I always wanted to be for our boys. But it's hard when it feels like the world is against you. I'm just taking it one day at a time, trying to do right by John and our kids. My husband drinks too much at a party and rejects me. Then his ex kisses him and I find out I'm pregnant. Now we're in a real mess. We've been married for 2 years, 5 years total, and we've never been in a situation like this. My husband never drinks too much because he knows he can easily lose his balance. Therefore, him getting wasted is a unique event. Today we had the day off so we could attend a party of our friend. There they kept pushing my husband to try some whiskey, which he never liked because he often passes out. After much insistence, he gives up and drinks a little. Needless to say, I carried him home with the help of some of our friends. At home, I made sure he took a shower and put him on the couch with water and some pills for a hangover. After that, I went to shower myself. When I finished, I saw him sleeping on the couch and decided to cuddle with him. 5 seconds later, he gets up and tries to put some distance between us. When I asked him why, he told me he was married and couldn't sleep with me. Not gonna lie, that really hurt me inside. I tried to explain to him that I am his wife, but he kept pushing me away every time I got closer. Then I got up and went to our bedroom where I am right now. I don't know how to feel about this. He couldn't recognize me. If I tell my friends about this, they will rip him apart, so I thought this would be a better place to ask for advice. Has anyone ever been in a situation like this? Hi everyone, I'd like to thank you all for the responses. I stayed awake for a few hours last night reading the comments. I must admit that I overreacted to my husband's reaction. I didn't have plans to initiate anything with him, only sleep together, since we've been doing this throughout our whole relationship. So seeing my beloved reject me made me feel like I did something wrong. I see now that I was insecure and will handle that. I read a lot of comments about my husband's drunken state. As I said earlier, that event is rare since he knows his limits. The last time he passed out was during his graduation party 3 years ago, so he can drink moderately. My only concern was talking to him about his friends' actions, which pestered him to drink more than he could handle. About our day, I slept late last night after reading multiple comments. Thank you again for the replies, so I could understand my mistake and not judge my husband unfairly. I woke up with my husband kissing my forehead, telling me he ordered lunch for us and it was almost noon. After we ate, I decided to joke about the situation, like some of you guys suggested, saying he rejected some girl who hit on him last night and later explaining the situation. We laughed a little and we spent the day together. Thanks again, everyone. I could put the blame on alcohol for the overreaction, but that wouldn't be fair. You all helped me see the event in a positive light. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Dude, people come into this subreddit and say their partners got drunk and slept with someone else as a result. Your man got drunk and remained so loyal that he didn't even realize it was you. I'm trying to understand why you're so upset, but I'm sorry, I just don't. Comment 2. He was really drunk, which affected his vision, so he truly believed you were a different woman, attempting to flirt with him. Hence the I'm married. I think you'll be okay. In a few weeks, this is something you can both laugh about. Now for the update. Hey Reddit, a lot has happened since my last post about my husband's drunken mishap. I never expected things to take such a turn, but here we are, 3 months later, and I'm still reeling from the events that unfolded. After that night, things seemed to go back to normal. We laughed it off, and life continued as usual. My husband, who's always been the cautious type, especially after that one time he tripped and broke his arm while trying to do a silly dance at a cousin's wedding, swore off whiskey for good. He stuck to his word, and we thought that was the end of it. But then, about a month ago, we were at another gathering. This time it was a celebration for our mutual friend's promotion. Everyone was in high spirits, and my husband was his usual charming self, sticking to soda and laughing at everyone's jokes. I remember how he used to tell me stories about his college days, how he was the life of the party without ever needing a drop of alcohol. That night, he was the same man I fell in love with. As the night wore on, I noticed he was getting a lot of attention from one of our friends. Let's call her Lisa. Lisa and my husband had history. They dated briefly before he and I met. It was one of those intense but short-lived romances that ended amicably, or so I thought. I didn't think much of it until I caught them in a heated conversation in the corner. My heart raced as I approached, only to overhear Lisa confessing that she still had feelings for him. She talked about their past, how they used to sneak into the college theater late at night to practice lines for the drama club, and how those were some of the best moments of her life. My husband, bless his heart, handled it with grace. He told her that he was happily married and that what they had was in the past. I felt a mix of pride and relief wash over me. But Lisa wasn't done. She leaned in and kissed him, right there in front of everyone. The room went silent. The confrontation that followed was like something out of a soap opera. I demanded to know what was going on, and my husband, still in shock, tried to explain. Lisa, tears streaming down her face, apologized and ran out. The party ended abruptly after that. We went home, and my husband couldn't stop apologizing. He was a mess, blaming himself for not seeing the signs earlier. I knew he was loyal. After all, he had been my rock when I lost my job last year, always encouraging me and helping me find a new path. but the trust we had was shaken. We tried to move past it, but whispers started to spread among our friends. Some took his side, others Lisa's. It was like high school all over again, with everyone choosing teams. Our once tight-knit group was fracturing, and it was taking a toll on our marriage. Then, 2 weeks ago, I found out I was pregnant. We'd been trying for a while, and this should have been joyous news. But the timing was terrible. My husband was overjoyed, yet I couldn't shake the feeling that our baby would always be tied to the memory of that night. We decided to keep the pregnancy a secret for a little while, at least until the drama died down. But secrets have a way of coming out, and when Lisa found out, she showed up at our doorstep, distraught. She claimed that the kiss was a mistake, a result of her not being able to move on from their past. She begged for our forgiveness, saying she'd leave town if it meant we could all have peace. The conversation was tense, with old wounds reopening. My husband reassured me of his love, but the damage was done. Lisa left, and we were left to pick up the pieces. Now, as I sit here typing this, I can hear my husband in the other room talking to his mom about baby names. He's excited, and I am too. But there's a bittersweet taste to it all. We're going to be parents, yet our circle of friends has never been more broken. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.